glad that my man ALAiN POUPART is ready to go with the Sports Grill Miami Dolphins report. The Miami Dolphins Insider Report is the Miami Dolphins get ready to take on the Chicago Bears. We promised you that he would join us now. He is ready to go. I think he's awake and ready to go.
Barely.
Good morning. How are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. How are you, Big O?
I cannot complain. You know, ALAiN, I was talking about this, and it's not to make excuses, but when you bring along an offensive lineman, and let's say normally you're bringing him in, there's 3 of the guys that are already established or 4 guys that are established. And you can kind of bring that rookie along. You can kind of hide him at times. You can help him at times. But the challenge for the Miami Dolphins to bring along 5 new, young, rookie offensive linemen and teach them all, and then they all have to learn how to play the game at this level, learn the chemistry together, all of those kind of things. It's a much bigger task than I think people realize. Agree or disagree on that?
To a certain degree, yeah. There's something to be said about making the transition from college to the NFL, and it's not everybody, and actually it's the rare guy who makes a seamless transition and becomes a complete stud in the NFL right away after being a stud in college. So if we were looking at the Dolphin offensive line from last year with the 3 rookies they had, it wasn't a great offensive line. Let's not kid anybody, but it wasn't horrible, and it was a lot better than it was in 2019. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Well, but the thing is, it's got to be better in 2021 if the Dolphins are going to go somewhere and the offense is going to become productive.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, if you brought in Eichenberg or Hunt or anybody, and then you already had Brandon Albert and Mike Pouncey, and, you had like 3 established cats, it'd be a little easier for that lineman to bring along. It'd be a little easier for the line to develop. But when you're developing 5 guys that have never seen this league and they're all learning at the same time, it's just, to me, I think about that, and that part of the equation becomes that much harder for the Miami Dolphins to develop the line. So it's probably going to take a little longer than normal because you have to develop everything from scratch, all 5 positions, which is crazy. And Jesse's the only one that has the kind of experience that you would say, okay, he has enough experience to really have the consistency at this level. The rest of the guys, they're still learning how to see everything they need to see in this league. They haven't seen all the coverages. They haven't seen all the guys. They don't know all the habits of the defenders in front of them, unlike a Mike Pouncey, who has watched film forever, and Brandon Albert, and knows the habits of many of the guys that they're facing. It's just everything about this becomes a little bit more of a challenge for the Dolphins than building your average offensive line. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, no, that's fair, but at the same time, you do need to see some progress to know that the guys are moving forward. Like if Austin Jackson, Solomon Kindley, and Robert Hunt are at the same point this year as they were last year, then we got a problem.
Yes.
And from where I sit, and I've seen every single solitary practice of training camp, I think Robert Hunt's going to be a stud. I have really, really high hopes for him. Austin Jackson is still unproven to me, and Solomon Kindley is still unproven to me. Not to say that Robert Hunt is proven, but again, I see something special in Robert Hunt that I have yet to see in the other 2 guys, and there needs to be some growth in their second year. And the thing with Eichenberg, and I understand that you're making the point of the transition to the NFL, but every scout before the draft, and I spoke to a gentleman who covers Notre Dame for SI, and everybody was in agreement that Eichenberg probably was the most NFL ready of the offensive linemen in the 2021 draft. And that maybe the issue with him is that perhaps his ceiling wasn't as high, but in terms of being ready to play, he was the guy. Well, then early in camp, though, he talked to the media and he kind of like admitted that the transition from the left side at Notre Dame to the right side in the NFL was a bit tougher than he had anticipated, which is a little bit disappointing, but it's a fact of life. So maybe expectations perhaps should be tempered a little bit when it comes to him. But again, you're looking at a guy for whom the Dolphins gave up a 2022 third-round pick so they could move up in the second round 8 spots to get him. So maybe the bar is set higher for him because of the price the Dolphins paid, fair or not.
Yeah, and when you gave us, when you gave us that nugget last week in one of the Sports Grills Insider reports, it gave me an idea. You got a left-handed quarterback, so you really won't piss him off. I'm thinking maybe you move Jackson a right tackle and you say, hey, man, this is our left tackle anyways, because you got a left-handed quarterback. You are the most important tackle. You put Eichenberg at his natural position. Jackson is considered a really good athlete, right? Maybe he can make the better transition, the quicker transition to right tackle. Eichenberg's naturally comfortable on the left side. Could that experiment ever happen?
I tell you right now, I would feel much more comfortable having Jesse Davis at right tackle than Austin Jackson.
Well, you're getting that today.
If we're being honest. No, correct. So I think the idea of moving Austin Jackson to the right side to allow Eichenberg to remain at left tackle, his position in college, I'm not sure how that really helps. I think that hurts your right tackle position. So I think they're going to stay the course for now.
Okay. All right. I just thought about that because I was going, man, one guy's natural, and then the other guy's actually considered a pretty good athlete in Jackson. So maybe he can make the transition. And in the end, the most important tackle on this team now is the right tackle because that's Tua's blind side. So really that becomes the team's left tackle.
Yeah, it's a kind of de facto left tackle because you got a lefty quarterback. Yeah. And with that, I should acknowledge yesterday was International Left-Handers Day. So happy day to Tua. I'm also a lefty, so
me too.
There you go.
There we go.
I knew there was a reason I liked you.
There you go. You see, if you're not a lefty, you're not cool. That's that's just those are the facts. I'm sorry, folks.
Absolutely.
You were disappointed with the right hand. It's all about the left hand, dude. I'm telling you.
Everybody's born right-handed, but some of us grow out of it.
That's it. I'm a complete weirdo, by the way, because I do some things right-handed and I do some things left-handed. I'm not ambidextrous. I can't do them both ways. So it's weird. Like I will write with my left, but I will shoot with my right. I will write with my left, but I will eat with my right. It's really odd, dude. I'm just a weird person. That part. You
don't say.
Yes, exactly. All right. So were you surprised at all when the coach said we would see Tua today?
No, not at all.
Okay. He needs to work, right?
Yeah, he needs to work. I don't think
everybody needs to work. Everybody needs to work, right?
Correct. And Brian Flores is not really the guy who's going to go like, that guy's established. He's exactly where he needs to be. So he doesn't have to play in the preseason. Brian Flores, Xavier Howard probably is going to play in the preseason. Let's just put it that way. So I don't think that applies. And again, and this is not going to make some folks happy, but had Tua firmly established himself as undeniably on the road to franchise quarterback them the way Justin Herbert did, then I could see it. But Tua still has to get to that level. So to me, it would make zero sense to not have him play in the preseason.
I agree. I have no problem with him playing. Question is, how much does he play today? Is it just a couple series? Is it an entire quarter? What do you think they're going to do? What's your guess?
That's a great question. My guess is at least the first quarter. It wouldn't even surprise me if he played the entire first half. I think they need to establish, and again, they need to establish some rapport with him working with the offensive line. The wide receiver core is a whole different game because you don't have Parker, you don't have Wilson, you don't have Fuller. So this is not the same group that's going to be there in week one, although I should leave Fuller out of that equation because he's not playing that game anyway. But Parker and Wilson figured to be key guys in that week one. They're not going to be played today. But some sort of connection, chemistry, rhythm needs to be established with the frontline guys. And you need that maybe more than some other teams. So to me, anywhere between a quarter and the first half.
Look, I'm looking forward to it. All right. What else should Dolphins be looking at? What are you looking at that Dolphins should be looking at?
I'm not sure anything matters beyond the offense clicking. I mean, this is.
How about Noah?
Right. Well, see, I'm not picturing Noah playing necessarily a big role in 2021 because they have the X situation settled. And when the Dolphins use a fourth cornerback, because Justin Coleman is going to be the slot corner, and I really like what I've seen from him in practice. So you're going to have X and Byron Jones and Justin Coleman in the slot. When it's time to use a fourth cornerback, I'm not so sure it's not going to be Nick Needham, who can be solid in that road. And then if Noah shows enough progress, then maybe it's him. So I don't think he's crucial. I think he had some good weeks of practice from what I could tell in Chicago. Again, we're dealing with two fields, so it was tough to watch everything every single time. But at the times I looked over and he was on the field, he looked like he did a pretty solid job. So I think there's reason to hope that he can make a step forward. But again, I still don't necessarily see him playing a major role in 2021. And I think the defense is set up to be pretty solid. The key for the Dolphins this season, clearly by far, is going to be how well can the offense produce. So to me, that's the entire focus of this preseason game.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there. They've got they definitely on offense. There's a lot of answers. I mean, a lot of questions to be answered on the offensive line. On defense, you talked a little bit about it. Jalen Phillips. Do you think he actually even plays today? Because I know all the other guys that were out, those guys aren't going to end up playing today. That they haven't been practicing. Those guys aren't going to throw them out there in the middle of a game if they haven't been practicing. But Jalen Phillips is kind of it's kind of teetering there because he did a little something on his way back here. Do you think he plays today?
Yeah, here's the thing. He was back for the practice on Wednesday and then didn't practice on Thursday. And the question is, did he have a setback? Is it load management where they want to be very careful to not aggravate the injury? That being said, I'd be surprised if he played. I mean, he's a guy who's missed like a decent chunk. He's missed about half of training camp so far. But so exactly how much are you going to get out of him in this first preseason game anyway? He's had one practice in the past like week and a half. So I'd be surprised if he played, to be honest with you.
ALAiN POUPART joins us twice a week for the Sports Grill Miami Dolphins Insiders Report. Out of curiosity, how much do we really know about Will Fuller's injury? Because here's a guy that has had his share of injuries, and you really want to see him out there on the field. You know, Jalen has had a couple nicks, but the kids fought through it and stayed on the field. And today we hope to see him play at 1 o'clock. But Will Fuller is one of those guys, and he's in a contract year, basically, because he signed a 1-year deal, which I love the way, Chris Greer set that up because it left the carrot dangling in front of him. So he has more desperation than anybody else to get on the field. Let's not kid ourselves. But what do we know about his injury?
Well, we know it's day to day because that's what Brian Flores tells us about every single player who's hurt.
Dude, I'm day to day, bro. Come on.
No, exactly. It's a bit frustrating for us writers because he has taken the position he's not going to divulge any detail in terms of injuries. I'm told it's a hamstring deal, and again, Will Fuller is a proven guy. I don't think it's quite as important for him to get the training camp reps as other guys. The fact that he's also not playing week 1, I think minimizes the importance of him getting back to practice. The one thing, though, is, again, this is a guy who's always been hurt in his career, so it's problematic that you start training camp and here we go again. There's an injury.
Right. Right.
So from that big picture standpoint, it's troubling that he's out. If we're looking strictly at 2021, not a big deal at this point yet.
Yeah. I just hope it's not something that lingers because this is a guy that is so important to this team because when you have those two guys on that field, it's going to absolutely create a terror. Albert Wilson was having a really good camp and then now got nicked up. How much does this set him back? And when they look at him, they go, yeah, we want him, but damn unreliable at the moment here. He got sidelined a little bit and he was making obviously some waves with all the other injuries at that spot.
Yeah, that's a tricky one because to me, he looked like he was on the verge of like maybe clinching his roster spot. And now we're back to, is he a lock for the roster? If you want to read into things like this, when the Dolphins put out their first depth chart of 2021, which mind you, they only do because they have to, because it's the start of the preseason. It was Wilson who was listed first on the depth chart. at one of the three wide receiver spots. They don't necessarily identify them, but it was clear that's the slot, and the guy behind them was Jalen Waddle. So if you put Wilson ahead of Waddle on the depth charts, certainly would seem to indicate he's a pretty safe bet that he indeed will make the 53-man roster. And from with what he showed early in camp, yeah, he belongs on the 53. And another guy I will tell you who at the beginning of camp I thought there's no way he's making the roster, and now I'm not so sure. It's Jakeem Grant, because he
Okay.
actually, the thing with Jakeem Grant's always been his hands are unreliable. He's dropped one pass in camp, and it was a public practice. He dropped a pass in the back of the end zone that he should have had, but he's caught everything else, and he's made a lot of plays. And of course, he gives you, the dynamic guy as a returner, which keeps you from having to use Jalen Waddle as a returner if Grant's on the team, and saves him for the offense.
That's where I think he makes it, because he makes it as a returner. He doesn't make it as a wide receiver. He makes it as a returner because he's priceless
But
in
they
that
don't
area.
have, but they don't have to keep him as a returner anymore, strictly as a returner anymore, because of Jalen Waddle, who can do that.
Nah, off a foot injury, and he's already limped. You don't wanna make that guy a full-time receiver and a returner. I don't I That would not be a smart move. At least in my eyes, that would not be a smart move in his rookie year. If we're talking he's already been through the ringer for a couple years and he's responded in the body and everything's fine, but in his rookie year, I would not wanna put that burden on him, Alan. I think that would be irresponsible on their part. That's
That's a
just me.
fair argument. No, it's a very fair argument, but I'm just saying the option is there. Whereas before, if it wasn't Jakeem Grant, there really was no dynamic returner on the roster. And now they have an option if they decide that they don't want to keep Jakeem strictly as a returner. That's all I'm saying.
Dude, what the hell happened to Lynn Bowden Jr.
That's
and
great
Malcolm
question.
Perry and these kind of cats that were brought in to maybe also be returners, be Mr. Everythings, help out in different areas. They're multi-talented, multifaceted. We haven't seen jack from either guy, dude. What happened to those kids? It looks like they got swallowed up by quicksand.
Well, if I'm going to be honest with you, as far as Malcolm Perry is concerned, training camp began, and my thought was that I'll be shocked if he makes the 53.
Right.
I mean, he's a nice player, nice athlete, but there's nothing really special about him. Bowden's a different case, because what really caught my eye with him last year, he's in the open field, and it's like the guy's got eyes in the back of his head. I mean, the instincts in the open field were absolutely crazy good, but he's really done very little. I mean, he's hardly been noticeable in camp, and now to me, it's like right now he's on the outside looking in as far as the 53 is concerned. Is there trade value with him, considering he came into the league as a third-round pick? Maybe. That could be one way the Dolphins go. Dolphins have a surplus of wide receivers. They have more NFL caliber wide receivers than spots on the roster. So it would not surprise me in the least. In fact, I would almost expect it that they'll make a trade involving one of those guys, see what they can get. And at this point, again, Bowden's on the outside looking in. As far as a 53-man roster, he has done very, very little. That's a little bit surprising, to be honest.
All right, running back. I'm almost at a point. I love Myles Gaskin. I love what he did last year. I'm not telling you he's a stud back or anything like that, but when they do draft a stud back in the next year or two, which I think it'll be next year, him and Gaskin, I think, will make an absolute great 1-2 punch if they go out after a first, second round type running back next year. I think that's the future. But for now, Gaskin is the number one guy. I'm sure we'll see him a little bit. I don't need to see that much of him. It's after him now. How does everything break down after him? Who gets the bulk of the playing time today? And Jared Dokes. I imagine we're not going to see much of him in the first half, but I would imagine the second half of all these games, he's going to finally get an opportunity. I know he kind of had a nightmarish day the other day, which in Chicago, dropping a couple passes and stuff. So break down the backup running backs behind Myles Gaskin.
Well, I would start off by saying I'm not quite as certain as you are they're going to be drafting a running back in the first or second round anytime soon, because they had opportunities galore to do that the last two drafts and they didn't do it.
Wait a minute. I have a theory on that.
Go
I have a
ahead.
theory. I have a
Go ahead.
theory on that. since most running backs are one contract guys, they've got to be really special to give them that second contract, right? Why are you going to draft a running back in the first, second, and third years of you building a team and building an offensive line? Because the youngster is going to take an absolute pounding. You don't have a quarterback to take pressure off of him. You don't have a great offensive line. He would take a beating the first couple of years. So you're probably better off getting by with backs that don't cost you a lot. They're serviceable. You develop your line, you develop your quarterback. When it's all done, year 4 now, year 5, that your team is set, you go draft your running back, and now you can milk them for the next 4 or 5 years on an offense that's already set, on offensive line that's already set, and he'll be better off suited to take off and have a career instead of these first 3 years that are going to be hell for any back that's behind this line. So I think they purposely have gone this path of using the lesser back to get through this phase of developing an offense instead of putting the kid back there and taking an absolute killing in the first 3 years.
I'll buy your argument to a certain degree, but you're talking the way you're talking about how long it's going to take for the offensive line to develop and become a quality unit is very, very troubling if I'm a Dolphins fan, because it's like, really, it's going to take that long?
And you just put them together in year 3 now is when you put them all together. Dieter's the only one that's been here 3 years. The other guys, this is their second year, and another guy it's his first year. So really, the line has kind of come together what you plan on putting on those 5 this season. So if they can gel this season, I think by next year you then add that back, and then you're better off at that point. That's just me. I'm just spitting in the wind.
Okay, I'll buy it to a certain degree. I also think there's a philosophical notion here among the Dolphin brass that they can make do with good, solid running backs, and they don't have to spend a premium pick on one. That's
what it looks like. Actually, correct. What you're saying is what they're exercising right now. Correct. What I'm saying, we'll find out if they do it next year. Then I think I was right, actually, but we'll see.
Fair enough. So the backs this year, I will tell you one guy who really impressed me in Chicago and looked good, and to me cemented the fact that I already thought he was going to be the short yardage goal line guy, and that he cemented that fact with what he did in Chicago, and that's Malcolm Brown.
Okay.
But he's another guy who I don't think necessarily needs a lot of playing time in the preseason, because you know what he is. So I think you're going to see a heavy dosage of Savon Ahmed, Jordan Scarlett, Jared Dokes, some Patrick Laird also. And you mentioned Dokes. To me, what he's got to show, the kid's got to show he can catch a ball. I mean, holy smokes. It started, I mean, I don't pay a whole lot of,
and his highlights are filled with amazing catches, actually. Have you seen his highlights?
From Cincinnati, from Cincinnati?
Yeah, from Cincinnati. His Cincinnati highlights are freaking amazing. There are some awesome catches that he has there. So you're like, okay, this guy can catch the ball. And then here he has been, poor kid, man.
Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert, he can't. And it started in the spring. I mean, I don't notice you don't pay a whole lot of credence and stuff like that, but I noticed every time they threw him the ball, he would like fight it, and he would drop it, or even if he would catch it, it wasn't smooth. It was like he would bobble it. And then again in Chicago, drops the pass again. And
what you're saying is he's making Jakeem Grant look sure-handed.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. And the bad news for Jared Dokes is he's not nearly good enough runner. Not that he doesn't have running ability, but he's not good enough to overcome the fact that he can't catch a pass. So, yeah, I mean, I think his margin for error right now, if he's going to even make the 53, is he's got to catch everything thrown his way. Because I mean, Gaskin's a lock. Malcolm Brown's a lock. I think Savon Ahmed's a pretty good bet. And I think Patrick Laird's the type of guy who he doesn't look like much, but he does a lot of different things, plays on special teams, and might be in the NFL for 10 years without ever carrying more than 10 times in a season. So I don't think Dokes making the roster, even though he was a draft pick, is a guarantee, and he needs to start catching the ball.
ALAiN POUPART joins us twice a week here exclusively on the Big O Radio Show with the Sports Grill Miami Dolphins Insider Report. And ALAiN, when I was a beat guy every year, like you have for a much longer time now for the Miami Dolphins, every once in a while in camp, you saw a kid that from the first moment started to flash and every day did something, and you just said, whether we're putting on pads or not, that dude's an effing player. Is that Javon Holland? Because, you know, it's like when we're sitting there and Jimmy brings in some guy from the Portland Fire Dragons named Miranda Gadsden, and all of a sudden he's making every catch in the book. And the first catch he made was a one-handed catch in the back of the end zone. You remember that? And we're like, okay, we got to write that down. And then every day it was one of those, and it was like, okay, I don't care what you tell me, that guy's a player. Mark Dixon, oh, I don't care what you tell me, that guy's a player. Is that what's going on with Javon Holland? That you look at him and you say, player?
Well, you know, I'm going to be partial to him considering he's Canadian, and so am I. So right away, I like the dude. But yeah, here's it. The ball seems to find him. And I asked Brian Flores about him.
Van Ginkel's that guy.
Oh, right? He's another guy. The dude's all over the place.
He flashed. Right. He flashed from the get-go is what I'm saying. This guy's doing the same thing.
No, practice on Thursday, like pass padded down at the line of scrimmage. He had a pressure on the quarterback. He had met a running back in the backfield. I mean, the dude's just doing nothing but making plays. Going back to Holland, yeah, the ball just seems to find him. And I asked Brian Flores on Thursday morning, is this an issue of like, does this guy just have, how much of it is just natural instincts? And Flo's response was to poo-poo it and basically saying along the lines of stop focusing on the big plays. Well, guess what? Give me a safety who can get 6-7 picks in a season, and you know, I'm going to be good with that. Obviously, you want him to have.
You got a Hall of Famer. You got a Hall of Famer that does that. If you're doing that every season, you're Hall of Fame, dude. You're headed for Canton. But how impressed have you been with him? Because again, that's a lot of that's the other thing that people don't realize. They're going to lay a lot of responsibility on that kid because he's going to end up being the quarterback of that secondary.
If he starts.
Yeah.
I'm not, because I'm not 100% sure that it won't be Jason McCourty, who's your starting deep safety, playing alongside Eric Rowe, because I think there's something that about the Dolphins that I think they'd like to have some veteran leadership back there and a good communicator and all that. And Holland is a rookie. So if I were to guess right now, I'd say McCourty is going to be the starter at New England on September 12th, but Holland's going to play a lot. And this is a guy who played 2 seasons at Oregon, had 9 picks in those 2 seasons. So at some point, it's not an accident that he's always getting picks. And in practice so far in training camp, he's got 3 picks.
For me, he starts. For me, he starts because ball hawks, you have to get on the field. You have guys that are playmakers. And have you seen the same for McCourty? That he's been around the ball the same way? That's what I'm saying. I think, you know, Flo can downplay it all he wants, but they've got to be in their meeting rooms away from the guys, like high-fiving, slap silly, going crazy, going, oh, we hit on this guy. We hit on this guy's going to make a quick transition. Because you just talked about earlier, some guys will make that quick transition. It looks to me like he's that kid that makes the quick transition.
Yeah, but here's what I would tell you is you and I would put the ball hawk on the field in a heartbeat. Flores would put the guy who is going to prevent any sort of breakdown in communication where there's a guy left wide open in the back behind the secondary because guys weren't talking or weren't where they were supposed to be. I think he would value that more than a guy who's going to come up with 3 picks.
Special teams wise, returns, obviously Jakeem's the guy, but who else are they going to use? Will they try Jalen Waddle at all? Or is it because preseason, let's not put him out there and risk this? We know kind of what he can do. Because you talked about, you know, some of you are all talking about trading Jakeem. So if that plan is in place, who's the one you're going to groom to take over? Because it doesn't make sense to put Waddle in there and carry the load full time. So who else will be experimented on today? And that's something that we should look forward to in today's game, that who else are they going to use in that return game outside of Jakeem?
Well, if I'm playing amateur detective, I think it might give us a clue that if they put Waddle back there to return punts and or kickoffs today, that might be some sort of indication that they are planning on using him during the regular season. Again, maybe not, but if I'm playing amateur detective, that would be a sign. The two guys I would look for, like on punt returns, I think Malcolm Perry would be your other guy who would be back there, and on kickoff return, it will be our aforementioned friend Noah Benagany, who did it a little bit last year as well.
Okay. That's punt return, kick return.
No, Igbenagany would be for kickoff returns, Malcolm Perry for punt returns.
Okay. Well, there's coming full circle. Here's where Malcolm Perry could actually do something and shock the world, right?
Yeah, he's got a ways to go, though. He's got a ways to go.
Yeah. I know. Hunter Long, I guess you told us that he was walking around without a brace and all that stuff. So I guess it's good news, right? I guess it's not as serious right now with Hunter Long.
Correct. Well, but you day to day, you just so we're clear on that.
We're all day to day.
No. Well, no, I'm relating to the Flores position on everything being.
I know.
No, and here's to me the worst case scenario right now because if it was season ending, the Dolphins would have put him on IR by now, which would have ended his season. They haven't done that, which is a good sign. Now it's possible that once they cut to 53, then they put him on IR, which sidelines him for 3 weeks, again, depending on the severity of the injury. But by all reports, it's not that serious, which is obviously good news. And then at some point, then the Dolphins are going to have to figure out what they're going to do at tight end because they have Mike Gesicki, Adam Shaheen, who's looked very, very good in camp, Durham Smythe, and one guy who has absolutely surprised the hell out of me as a receiver is Ethan Carter, who they signed as a free agent from the Bengals, who I have to be honest, I know my NFL rosters. I had never heard of the fella. And he comes in and I did my research on him. He's a tight end H-back, special teams guy, mostly a blocker. And the dude's made a lot of plays in the passing game and he's caught everything inside. And I'm like, yeah, that guy's a good receiver. Okay. So, and then when you add Hunter Long to the deal, that's 5. They're not keeping 5 tight ends.
No.
So something's going to have to give.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. All right. Let's wrap it up with this. Do you get your question and our question finally answered? Who the hell is going to call plays? Right? I mean, today we should find out, right? Today the camera will be focused on whoever's carrying that headset up in the booth and making the calls, right? So I would imagine that we get, unless Flo is going to put them both with headsets sitting next to each other to kind of psych us out. And it's like, okay, we don't know who's calling or what, you know what I mean? But there's a good chance that we're going to find out finally who's the guy calling the plays, right?
Yeah, and I'm also not sure why it's a national secret. I mean, state secret. Not only that, George Gotze was asked, the assistant coaches spoke on Monday, and he was asked if he was going to be in the booth or on the field, and he wouldn't answer that.
I know.
Dude, really? Is that going to affect the strategy of the opponent?
Like, really? Exactly. What's the big deal, dude? Plus, it makes all the sense in the world that the passing guy is the guy that's going to call the plays when it's all said and done.
Well, not only that, he's done it before also, and Studesville hasn't. So logically, it should be Gotze, but we don't know for sure. And it's possible, as you suggested, if they both have headsets and they both pretend to be calling plays at the same time, maybe we'll never know.
Yeah, exactly. And again, what's the big secret? I just, that one I totally understand. He doesn't want to give the injury information. He doesn't have to in the preseason. He's not required right now by NFL law to give the injury, the nature of the injury or anything like that. Not that they really do anyways, because look at Tom Brady. He was playing with a blown knee ligament the whole year and didn't tell anybody. And I'm sure Vegas is like, damn, these bastards. So, it is what it is, but I just don't understand that. But I figured today we finally maybe find out who the hell is actually calling the plays. So we'll find out. ALAiN, as always,
they would tell you, Big O, though, it doesn't matter who's actually calling the plays. Everything is a collaborative effort. So,
yeah, I'm with you there. ALAiN POUPART joins us. Make sure that you follow him on Twitter at POUPART NFL, and of course, catch him twice a week here for the Sports Grill Miami Dolphins Insider Report. Sir, enjoy the game today. Should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it'll be nice to see some game action. Been a while since we had a Dolphin preseason game.
I know. Thank the Lord we're getting some football and get to see the Dolphins now play. It should be a lot of fun, man. Looking forward to a good season. I think we're going to have a really good season. I think the boys are going to get to the playoffs. It's going to be fun. You're going to cover playoffs this year. There you go.
Would love nothing more.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. You be good, my brother. Enjoy your weekend and stay dry.
You do likewise. Thanks, Big O.
All right, my brother. There you go with the Spose hat and everything. Always sporting the Spose hat.